Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be sharing a super simple tutorial. I'm going to be taking you through an easy step-by-step process for making a junk journal notebook using an envelope for the cover. I'm also going to be sharing how to bind the notebook using the 3-hole pamphlet stitch binding method. The supplies you will need are some paper for the inside pages, an envelope or cardstock for the cover, a needle and some thread. You may also want to grab some paper clips, an awl, a ruler and a pencil, and some form of mat to protect your surface. Okay, so I'm using an envelope for the cover of my notebook, but you could use cardstock or cardboard. My envelope measures approximately 6.5 inches by 4.5 inches, and I'm using an envelope because I want to have a pocket in the front and back of the cover. And here I'm just showing you what papers I'm going to be including. I have 12 papers here. Most of them are vintage, but you can use whatever papers you would like. So I'm starting by measuring and trimming down all of the pages. I'm using the envelope as a template and using my ruler to trim the paper down to size. Once they are all trimmed down, I will then fold them in half. You could fold them in half first and then trim them down. I just made sure that when I trimmed them down, some of the pages were smaller than the envelope, so when all the pages are folded in half, none of them overhang the cover. But if that happens, you can always trim them down a little bit further. Now all of my pages are trimmed down, I'm just going to tuck the flap inside the envelope to create the cover. Once folded, my cover will measure about 3 inches by 4.5 inches, so it's going to be a mini notebook. I do end up with a crease on the inside of my envelope. I have made this many times before and never had this issue, but today I was using a different envelope and they are a little bit thicker. As it is a junk journal, I'm going to be leaving the crease as it is, but if this happens to your cover and you want to cover it up, you can use some more paper to do that. So all I'm doing is folding my papers in half to create the pages. With this vintage glassine envelope, again I'm just tucking the flap inside the envelope, which will create another couple of pockets. So now that all of the pages are folded, I'm going to sort them into piles just to make it easier to see what I have. So I'm placing the craft paper together, a lined and grid paper together, and the book pages together. And then I'm just going to start stacking them inside the cover, making sure all the creases meet. I'm also making sure that the pages go in the right way up. I'm just randomly choosing papers which I think look good together. Sometimes I change my mind. So now all of the pages are inside the cover, we're going to move on to binding it all together. You will need to take some paper clips or a binder or bulldog clip, as we need to keep all the pages together so it won't move. I have some hair grips which I've been using since I started making junk journals. At the time I only had some tiny paper clips and these hair grips were a lot longer and they also work perfectly fine. Next you will need an awl and some thread. I'm using embroidery thread, but you could use wax linen thread or even twine. We are going to be using the 3-hole pamphlet stitch method to bind our journal. Now you can totally eyeball where you want your 3 holes in your journal, but I like to measure things out and I'm using a ruler to do that. So I'm using my pencil to mark where the centre of the notebook is, and then I'm also marking an inch from both ends. Once you have marked where your 3 holes will be, you can come in with your awl and pierce the holes. You will want to close your notebook a little bit, as that will make it easier to pierce the holes through all of the pages and into the spine of your cover. If you don't have an awl, you can use your needle, but I highly recommend buying an awl as they are very inexpensive and it makes piercing holes much easier. Next, you are going to need some needles. The needles I'm using are these doll needles, and I really like them as they are a little bit longer than your average needle and they have a small eye, which makes it easier to go through the holes. Next, you will need to measure out some thread, and the way to measure out how much thread you need is to measure out 3 times the length of your journal. That's going to be more than enough, but it is better to have more than not having enough. Once you've threaded the needle, you'll be going through the centre hole from the inside of the book. You will want to make sure that you leave a little tail, as that thread will be used to tie a knot at the end. Once your needle is on the outside of the book, you can choose which hole you go into next. I like to go through the top hole first. Once your needle is back on the inside of the book, you will skip the middle hole and go through the other hole. In my case, I'm going through the bottom hole. Once you are back on the outside of the book, you are going to go back through the middle hole again. You will want to try and get your thread on either side of the long thread in the middle of the book. It will make it easier to tie a knot. You will want to pull the threads taut so it all stays bound together nicely, and then tie a couple of knots. I'm using 3 knots with this embroidery thread. Once you have tied the knots and you're happy that the journal is secure, you can cut off the excess thread and remove your clips. I'm going to go ahead and decorate the cover. Of course, you don't have to do this, you can leave it as it is. I've pulled out some bits and pieces I might like to use. This is one of my vintage doilies that I've scanned in and printed, but I've realised that if I wanted to use this, I probably should have attached it to the journal before I bound it all together. So I have this flower image that I fussy cut out and a red label, but I wasn't 100% happy with how this looked. In the end, I pull out another vintage doily of mine that I scanned in and printed, and I really like how cute this looks on the cover. So I'm just cutting the image out and then I'll attach it to the cover using a glue stick. I'm going to be passing this little notebook along to a friend, and this is why I chose an envelope for the cover. I want to add some goodies into the pockets. So I'm including some red labels that I printed on sticker paper. It's a free printable, and I'll leave the link down in the description box for you. In the back pocket I've added a playing card and tea card, and in the vintage glassine envelope I'm including some fussy cut images of birds and butterflies. And here is our completed junk journal notebook, fully bound, fully decorated and filled with goodies. So here is the final flip through. I absolutely love how it turned out. If you decide to make one and you share it on social media, please tag me on Instagram at Emma Durrans because I would absolutely love to see them. So because I'm sending this on to a friend, I wanted to make it look nice for her, so I'm just taking some brown twine and wrapping it around the notebook and tying it in a sweet little bow. I had so much fun making this notebook, so I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment and I'll get back to you. I hope you're all doing really well. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.